and I'll actually go into the American roots of the problem, because those really did exist. Well, essentially, Greece was overextended for quite a while, and it wasn't because of these benefits that people get that they talk about in the news, where people retire early, and it wasn't the generous wages, and it wasn't the universal health care. Basically, what it was is the previous administration in Greece was cooking the books of the government. And they got to a point where they realized that any external person is going to see it. So what they did is they went to Goldman Sachs and said, listen, we need to raise money because we're running out of it quick, but nobody in their right mind will give us money or buy Greek bonds, given the way our papers look right now. So Goldman figured out a great way, and I'm not going to spend the time getting into the details of it, but they found a good way to basically show the Greek financial situation in a very positive way, where it would make Greek bonds look like a very, very great investment.
Like a AAA type deal.
A AAA type deal, and they were basically selling people junk.
Okay. Sort of like the housing market type deal, where you take them all and package them and cut them up and that sort of thing?
I mean, they weren't even cutting them up, really. I mean, when it comes to the housing thing, if anyone took the time to look at it, they would have seen that the whole thing was a Ponzi scheme. With the Greek thing, it was more accounting tricks and straight-up lying.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was all these people dumped all this money into Greece, and the corrupt government was basically spending money faster than it was taking it in, and the population kind of started to see that something was wrong. So they voted the old guys out, brought in a new guy, and when the new guy looked at the finances, his response was essentially, holy shit, we've been lying to the world, and now we are in trouble. So within, I think it was a month or two of the administration, basically said, the last guy cooked the books completely, our debt as a percentage of GDP is nowhere close to what he's been saying, this is the actual situation that we're in. So at that point, that's when the world was just like, oh my God, what has happened to this country, you know? So when Greece went into the Eurozone, a lot of the Greeks didn't want to do it in the first place, because what the Eurozone essentially did is it took a single currency without taking into account that each country has a different economy and different drivers of economies, and there's a different cost of living in each country, and essentially overnight, the price of everything for the Greek population doubled. So the government had made these promises to the population as far as pensions, entitlements, exactly, and had to honor them under the current system. And there wasn't a politician that could go in and say, we need to scale these back, because they would have been voted out. I mean, the Greeks have had this ever since they were rebuilt after the Civil War, right after World War II. So, I mean, it's essentially, it's kind of similar to what's going on now here, where as soon as someone says we need to change Medicare to, you know, let's say Congressman Ryan says a voucher program, anyone that has that entitlement right now is going to say absolutely not, that doesn't work. And the rest of the population is going to say, we've been paying into this for a while and we're entitled to it. How can you do this now? So the Greeks just basically got put in a really bad situation. The funny thing is about that situation, though, is that the Greek debt, if you divide it up among the entire population, is about $44,000 a person. Mm-hmm. Our current debt is $45,000 a person. So, you know, and that's kind of a misleading figure, I suppose, because our average annual income is a little bit higher here and all that stuff. But we also, at the same time, don't have the assurances from the government that the Greeks do. So I guess it's a bad comparison, but at the same time, it fits. You know, it's just kind of the state of things and the way the world is running right now.
Yeah. So, and it's not just Greece, huh?
No, it's Portugal, Italy, Spain, and there was actually an interesting article in Wall Street Journal today that was talking about how, you know, an economy like Greece or Portugal, you can mitigate it because countries that are more affluent in Europe and in the Eurozone, like France and Germany, can prop them up through various measures like what we've seen in the news lately. But when you come to an economy like Italy, I think exposure that Germany has to Italy's government bonds is something around 97 billion. It was just short of 100 billion. And what Greece and Portugal combined did not equate to that. So, you're looking at a situation in Europe right now where Italy, who is on the precipice of economic failure and defaulting on their loans, is going to go looking for a handout, and there is nobody in the Eurozone that can afford to do it.
So, what do you think this means for the euro and the European Union? I mean, what do you foresee? Is this going to spell? I know they've been having some emergency meetings. Are they freaking out?
Yeah, they're absolutely freaking out. But I don't know. In my reading of history, whenever these doomsday scenarios come up, people figure something out, and it's essentially just there has to be a shared sacrifice where everyone is complicit in getting to this situation. Once people realize that, well, I don't know, the way discourse has been going, I don't know if everyone realized that, but everyone was complicit in it, and this establishment of the Eurozone benefited certain countries way more than others. And as a result, they may all fail on account of this. So in the end, while everyone's doing the whole Chicken Little thing, mm-hmm. It'll hurt investors, but who gives a shit about investors? I think what really matters is making sure that the people of those countries don't suffer as a result, and I think that people will come through and make that happen eventually.
So, there's obviously... Why don't more people know about what's going on in Greece? Why don't more people know that, how many countries would you say are we seeing, huge demonstrations, if not revolutions? And do you feel like, there's legitimate, there's legitimate revolutions going on right now?
Well, I think we've seen that in the Middle East for sure, but I guess it's always kind of scary to think of the worst case scenario of revolutions because they don't always end well.
Right.
So yeah, to answer your question directly, yes, there's absolutely revolutions. But it's when we look at things like the Middle East where the revolutions have happened, the successful revolutions have occurred in countries that have a long-standing national identity. So where it may be successful in a country like Egypt, they've had a taste of Western wealth. They know what's possible. They're not exactly offended by Western culture. When you get into a country like Yemen, Yemen is a very tribal country, and the same thing actually goes with Libya. It's not like how we think of a country in as we think of the United States, where we're all Americans with differing point of views, and we're Americans first, a political party second. And I know that doesn't seem like the case right now, but trust me, it just is. But when you get to these other countries like a Yemen or a Libya, they have these tribal families that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, and your number one allegiance is to the tribe, because the tribe is what's always been there. The country comes and goes, and the one thing we have to remember as Americans is that a lot of these countries didn't exist until Western powers carved them out randomly for their own interests.
Sure. So the original question was, why don't more people know, about the protests, riot, whatever you want to call it, that's going on in Greece and throughout the Middle East? Because how could you not know, right?
Well, yeah, I think if you're relying on like a CNN or something, then you'll get half stories, but I guess you'll get at least some topical knowledge of it. But quite honestly, it just takes a lot of time and reading and spending time with a honest to goodness newspaper.
I just think it should be way more obvious, or at least way more reported. I guess that goes kind of without saying, but it's like, why aren't more people aware of the fact that, it just seems explosive. You know what I mean? That so many people, so many masses of people are demanding change and demanding, their rights, their essential civil liberties, human rights, you know. But it's basically leads into my next question: is why don't more people know that we provided Iraq with chemical weapons of mass destruction to use on Iran? You know,
well,
right?
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of a complicated question to answer, but I'll do my best. I think. Well, first let me say this: our ignorance as far as what's going on in the rest of the world as a country is uniquely American.
Yeah, and it's like a luxury too.
It's a luxury.
You know, it's like a fine hat we wear. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's because for a long time we haven't really had to worry about it. You know, our generation has never seen a war. I don't personally know anyone that's gotten killed in a war. Every time we've waged a war, I've never seen like a decrease in my income.
Yeah, it's not like there were wars being waged on our continent even.
Right, so we don't have a vested interest in paying attention to these things unless... Well, I hate saying it like that. I mean, to me, I take an interest in it because I'm a human, and these are other humans who have similar emotions that suffer as a result of this stuff. But I think that this country as a whole is very detached, and, you know, even when we talk about, like, the war in Iraq or the war of Afghanistan, it's just this esoteric thing in this place that most people can't even pinpoint on a map. That's, you know, a country of these people that are, you know, dressed kind of strange, and they eat weird foods, and I think just people don't have empathy for them for some reason. And, you know, for me, I guess I've had the benefit of growing up with a foot in two cultures. So
me too.
Yeah, so it's easier for me to just be like, man, these are people, you know? I mean, a kid dies, the mom's going to cry just like she would over here.
Yeah.
But I think by and large this country just doesn't have that. And there's also this ridiculous notion of American exceptionalism where we don't see any fault in any actions we've done. And the thing is when you look at something like 9/11, that's a direct result of not actually our actions, it's our inaction after the Russians were expelled from Afghanistan. We just left that country to rot and made a hotbed for resentment and hatred, and nothing we're doing now is...
Yeah, not to mention, you know, funded and basically helped create Al-Qaeda.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, their roots were the Mujahideen, which the CIA funded, armed, and trained to expel the Russians.
Yeah, it just frustrates me because that's a perfect example of what I feel like should be what you'd call common knowledge. You know what I mean? But, so yeah, and you know, when I ask you, you know, why don't more people know about that, it's not as though I actually expect you to know an answer or to give me an answer. If anything, it's more just sort of like venting. You know what I mean? And so anyway, but yeah, I go down that road and I ask that question too because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you know who General Wesley Clark is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in 2000, I don't know, it was 2005 or give or take a couple of years. Anyway, I seen this link where he talks about these 7 countries. All right, and I don't know if Iran is actually included in the 7. I think it is, but Iran could be a country that is apart from, you know, 7. So Iran is either included in the 7 or it's not. But anyway, it's a list of 7 countries which need to be basically invaded, and it's the road to Iran.
Okay.
And apparently, our president had recently, he had, what's the word? See, this is why I'm taking supplements. You know, my memory and all that. This is exactly why I'm taking supplements, because I actually get to these points where I cannot access my vocabulary.
It happens. You use one-syllable words, and we'll get there.
And it actually has gotten a lot better since taking supplements, because if we'd been conducting this conversation before I had been taking them, it would have been every sentence, and I can't believe this is actually the first time it's actually happened in this conversation. We've been talking now for 50 minutes. But anyway, so Barack Obama apparently has authorized, that was the word I was looking for, us to kill some people in Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this just happened. Maybe you could probably tell me more about it.